Before we begin, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Dolynny TV and on Instagram at Tyson Dolynny. You guys want to make sure you see what's going on behind the scenes here on Dolynny TV. That's where to find it. Let's get going. This is Dolynny TV, guys. A big welcome back to NHL 19 in some franchise mode. Of course, today you see we're running a little bit of a simulation, and I really am excited to see how this one works. Last year it was done in NHL 19, but now I'm going to test it out in NHL 19 because the thing I'm looking for is Toronto got better, Ottawa, Montreal got way worse, and of course you've got the Oilers who kind of stood pat, the Flames who got better, the Canucks who, well, they lost the Sedins, so I don't even know if they're a franchise anymore, and the Jets who of course were very good last year, look to be still very good this year. I'm going to choose a neutral party down in Minnesota. The Pacific Division has been kind of simmered around. Some Central Division guys have gone out to the Atlantic. It's a mess, but either which way, we're going to be just fine with it. So let's continue here and then get into the career. Basically, it's going to be pretty simple CPU trades. I'm going to keep everything off, and we're just going to see how everything plays around when it comes to the NHL, right? Maybe we should keep CPU trades on. In fact, we will. Minnesota will be the only team, but that'll allow the Oilers and the Flames and all those to improve. Basically what we need to do here is go to the gameplay settings. Guys, like I'm a big fan of turning down the injuries to 0 when you go to do a simulation. I will show you this every time, because if you want to run a successful simulation, you really want to make sure you guys aren't having to deal with 5 million injuries in a season, right? That just drags it out and sucks it down when you can literally do this in 10-15 minutes. So start the career with the Minnesota Wild, keep the salary cap on, and see what the teams can do now that they have the salary cap compliance to worry about. Creating new league. Alright, this is going to be the fun part. We're going to chop this down and make it into something right away here. So basically, I'm going to get in here, and we're going to get out on the other side, alright? Alright, so here we are in the regular season. Basically, we're going to pick it up. It looks like the Minnesota Wild have picked up the Edmonton Oilers schedule, so it's going to be that fun dancy stuff, right? They're gonna all work around, and I guess what you're gonna see is the Calgary Flames, Toronto Maple Leafs. They've all had games on hand, right? These guys have played games against each other so far this year. Calgary, Toronto, Winnipeg, and the Oilers all have victories. The other 3 have losses. Okay, that's pretty nifty. The Minnesota Wild yet to play a game, so the Oilers obviously are gonna get a late start to the season, that is for sure. So we're going to get in. We're going to go a couple of months here, see what the standings are looking like after month number 1 in the Central Division, which is where I have those guys pitted. And we're just going to move as quickly through this as possible. I'm looking for the Oilers to come out on top. Right now, what I want you guys to do as we simulate along and you feel inclined to maybe comment, I want you to comment your thoughts down below who's going to come out on top. If you're cheering for Edmonton, go for Edmonton. If you're cheering for Calgary, go for Calgary. Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, or Vancouver. Let me know in the comments. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say. I think right now at this point, it's either going to be Edmonton, Toronto, or Calgary that'll take over the top spot in the Central with all 7 NHL teams in there. And you see bing bang boom to the Anaheim Ducks, Eric Staal, to Minnesota Wild, Pettersson, and Anaheim Ducks first round pick. What a draft. Could you ever imagine trading Eric Staal for a first round draft pick a couple years ago? I don't think so. We'll decline and politely let them go. So you see Toronto is 9-3-1. Edmonton is 6-5-1. So that screams some questions already right there. And we're going to see the Winnipeg Jets are the best team in the Central. Okay. So it's bing bang to Toronto. Montreal is surprising us. Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, and then Vancouver in the bottom spot, 5th or 5 points, 7th overall. Yeah, the Pacific's strong, so that's going to be a tough task. Can the Central Division dogfight it out for a wild card spot? How many of these teams are going to make the playoffs? We're going to find that out as quick as possible here, and I think it's going to change up pretty much. Look at that. Roy, second, and Chekovic. No, I'm not thinking about that. Eric Stahl's on the trading block, but man, he's a hot commodity. 2 trade offers so far for Eric Stahl. Now Prosser, a 4th, a 5th, and for Tiffles and a 3rd rounder. Man, they really want Prosser. Seeing that Minnesota has some lucrative deals for sure in their back pocket if they want to go that way. Minnesota's 6-9-1. We're struggling. That's all right. We're up to 7-9-1. But really what matters is that next date against Montreal, then the week later against Montreal, Vancouver, and Edmonton. So that's going to be interesting to see how that Canadian road swing goes. We beat Ottawa. So Ottawa has a little bit of salt in their wounds right now after that defeat, but man, Minnesota is just getting piled on here. Should have sent them to the East. 7-14-1. It's been pretty brutal. Senshin for Spurgeon. Senshin, second, third, fourth. Damn, do they want Jared Spurgeon? That is a hell of a trade for the Minnesota Wild. If they ever want to rebuild and trade someone away like that, hey, look at that. Victory for Montreal. Vegas, absolutely dominating. Let's get into this and see where we sit after month number 2 of the simulation. It's Toronto on top, 40 points, and then you've got Winnipeg, Montreal, Calgary, Ottawa. Edmonton is in 6th place, 1 point ahead of Vancouver. Oh man, that division is an absolute horror show on the top 3 to the bottom 3. It's a bad time, and you see Bing Bang. It's going to be a tough one, and we're going to go finish off that stretch there. And we're going to play Winnipeg twice this month, and we'll see what happens with Vegas. First off, it's a 5-0 shootout loss. Montreal gets the victory. Now the big question, will Vancouver get the victory? They do. 4-3 in a shootout. Edmonton, will they get the victory? First round, Pettersson. Third round for Eric Stahl this time. No thank you, Anaheim. 3-2 win, so downed is Edmonton. Vancouver gets the victory. Get the victory there, and now all of a sudden Minnesota's starting to turn on the Jets against the Central Division, their former division. It's looking good for Minnesota for sure. Jared Spurgeon, a first, a second. What the hell is Florida doing? Some of these trades, they're something else, that's for sure. Now 2 defeats to Vancouver in 1 month. That's going to be devastating for our boys in Minnesota, especially knowing what Vancouver's trying to do in their division when we're into December. And I mean, it's a tough go. We're 14-19-5, but the big matter is we just downed Winnipeg. We're downing all the Canadian teams here. We don't play a single Canadian team in the month of January, so we're going to go get through February up to the trade deadline and see what happens. We play, what, 3 Canadian teams there, so that's going to be a tough one to see. We'll get through 2 months and see what we can influence in the NHL when it comes to the Central Division with all the Oilers, Flames, Leafs, Canucks, Sens, Canadians, like, oh, those teams. I forgot one. I can't remember which one I forgot. Winnipeg, I think. But it's a dogfight as far as I've seen in that division so far, and you're going to see 2 straight games against the Central Division. We're going to get to see their records right here. First and a second from Dallas for Jared Spurgeon. You see, this is actually a really good test. I have yet to do this. This is a really good test of Fog of War's system of how teams evaluate players. Like, you're seeing some teams shoot for the stars and then other teams ask for nothing, right? Pettersson's a top 4 defenseman. They're only asking for a third, where they were going to give up a first and a second for Eric Stahl. So, right, obviously Pettersson has some value, and that third is compensation for it. A top 4 D-man, what exact value does he have, right? Eric Stahl, you get a second, 2 seconds, a top 4 D-man, and Prosser is all that they're asking for. So San Jose not in need of picks. Mikko Koivu for 2 firsts. Mikko Koivu and Jared Spurgeon. That's a fire trade. Like, if Minnesota's rebuilding, which we look to have to be, right? First and a second for Spurgeon, third and fourth, but we've already had a first and a second offered for Spurgeon, I do believe. So you see, now they're kind of trying to take advantage of the situation. Do you want to offload your players? We beat Toronto there. Edmonton, we beat them, so they continue to lose. And now Kachuk for Stahl, Liponov, and a first. That is a lot of value for Eric Stahl. It's getting higher, right? Some guys are higher on other teams' lists. Other teams are rating guys lower, but man, some teams are really getting a job done here with some big trades in terms of a rebuilding Minnesota. Eric Stahl in a third for a top 4 D-man, a first round pick, and a second round pick. That's getting crazy. I mean, they are 2020 picks, so you have to be careful because it's only 2029, and a third and Prosser for a third. So essentially they're saying, hey, if you want to offload Prosser, we'll take him. And obviously Dallas isn't having a very good season. Eric Stahl, top 6 for 2 first rounds. Right there, 2 first rounds from Nashville. So Nashville's hot on the Eric Stahl race. And you've got Arizona, and we'll get right going here. Eric Stahl, Jared Spurgeon. See, Florida doesn't value these guys. Florida doesn't value these guys at all. A first and a third. We've had 2 firsts offered for just Eric Stahl alone. Right there again, another big deal, Tyler Radish. A third, obviously added in the Radish deal. And we are getting a lot of trade offers here. This is kind of derailing my episode a little bit, isn't it? We're trying to get to the Pacific Division, and we're getting trade offers heavy in March, but this is fog of war, like we said. This is what it's all about. Eric Stahl, that's a hell of a deal for Eric Stahl. You might as well get 3 firsts in that deal from Tampa Bay, who's now getting the boots to him. Winnipeg, 2 seconds, green. So they're trying to offset 2 firsts. I don't think that's as good. Clegg and a first for Stahl, right? There's a lot of stuff. Guys, if you're not doing your homework on fog of war right now, I don't know what you're doing. First and second from Dallas, so that's about what's been average for him. And now we get into the Calgary game. First and a third from LA, so they don't value Stahl near as much as that first trade we had. Spurgeon in Minnesota, 2 second. Like, there are some tough decisions to be made for sure down the stretch in our Oilers franchise mode. I'm telling you that much. Now we're into March, so let's go check the standings and show you what happens if we have all the teams in one division. The Flames and Canucks struggling. Edmonton and Senators kind of mid-pack struggling as well. Really not pretty much the worst teams still in the entire division. And then you've got Montreal, Winnipeg, and Toronto as the 3 best teams almost. So I don't think I could have projected Montreal to be that good, but Montreal is certainly doing well. Let's go see what happens here against Nashville. Let's get this month over with and see who's going to make the playoffs in the Pacific Division. I think we already know the answer. It's a pretty no-brainer, I'd say, at this point. We down the Oilers enough times. We down the Senators enough times. It really doesn't matter. But Chicago is going to take a loss, and suddenly we are 29 and 30, 31 and 31. Suddenly we might have a shot at the playoffs here in Minnesota, but more importantly, the division, the Central Division, needs to figure out what they're doing. Well, look at that big old win streak gets us to 34 and now 35. Why would you trade Eric Stahl, right? Who am I? Am I a joker? I am indeed. So that makes sense there. 36 and 32, 37 and 32. What a month of March for the Minnesota Wild. Come in here against Ottawa, get the victory there as well in San Jose. And now against Nashville, you got to win a game, and they can't close it. But 40 and 34, I don't think we expected this season to finish off like this, did we? I did not believe in that. And Eric Stahl, 27 goals, 37 assists. And somehow, get this, it's a 99 to 88 division. That's how damn good the Pacific was this year with the Canadian teams in one division. 108, 105, 95 for the top 3 teams in the Central. Of course, the Oilers finished with 84. They were 7 points back in the playoffs. Calgary, Vancouver, and Ottawa missed the playoffs. You see over in the Atlantic, nobody really topped Winnipeg. Winnipeg was the best team, so was Toronto. So I told you those two were going to be contingent big-time victors, right? And you see kind of the worst division in all of hockey. The most up and down would definitely be over there in the Central. So that's what happens. If you put all Canadian teams in one division, it's the top dogs feed and the bottom dogs bottom. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Tyson. This has been Dolynny TV. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like. I will catch you guys in the next one.